everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast and Merry Christmas. Today we are talking about all the fun films that are not on Hallmark and that we haven't covered on Up TV and other recaps. So it's always a ton of fun. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. Michelle's here.
Hey, everyone.
You're looking very festive.
Yep.
People that aren't watching on the YouTube are real missing out.
Yeah.
So you had it was a wear Christmas jumper day at work, you said?
It's all of the UK. It's like
all
Christmas.
over UK.
Yeah, it's official like Christmas jumper day. So you wear a Christmas jumper to work. It's
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, how are things going? I know it's a tough time to be in retail.
You know, it's not too bad. It's sort of weird, our store. It sort of starts to die down a little bit as you get closer to Christmas, and you can sort of pick because New Year, a lot of the younger ones want to spend time sort of partying and stuff over the New Year, so they tend to work Christmas, and then people that don't really bother, like myself, with the New Year, will work the New Year. And the way it just worked out for me was I get 6 days off over Christmas.
Oh, that's nice.
Like, it's crazy. Like, I'm so excited. I'm gonna sleep the whole time probably, but I'm so excited.
I gotta figure out what we can record during that 6 days.
Well, we
have to take advantage of it.
Yeah, we've Heartland. We've got All Creatures. We've got
yes.
Like we've got a lot.
Oh, well, very good. I'm glad for you. That's gonna be good. Well, let's dive in. Let's talk about this. Was an interesting group. Certainly an eclectic group. If people think all Christmas movies are the same, then you're missing out on some variety at least. But let's start with, on Netflix we have the Family Switch, and I didn't even know when I was preparing the preview. I didn't know that this was a holiday film. I thought it was just a comedy. It's a light holiday, I mean, but there is enough that it's definitely a Christmas movie. But it's Family Switch, and this is directed by Mick G. And it's written by Adam Steitzel and Victoria Strauss, and it stars Jennifer Garner, Ed Helms, Rita Moreno, and a large cast. And it's when the Walker family members switch bodies with each other during a rare planetary alignment. Their hilarious journey to find their way back to normal will bring them closer together than they ever thought possible. So, Michelle, what did you think of Family Switch?
Yeah, like you, I had no idea that this was actually a Christmas film until it was on our list. I mean, that they're really missing an opportunity to grab an audience, because
they are.
Even the poster just isn't like Christmassy at all. I'm a massive fan of Jennifer Garner, like from Felicity, when she was like a guest star on Felicity. I loved her since then, and I'm a massive fan of Alias. So I do think she is one of the best sort of comedic actresses in the US. Ed Helms sort of hit and miss. The young cast, Emma Mars, I'd seen it on Wednesday, so cast alone I was sort of hyped, and I know that Jennifer sort of had a bit of a rocky relationship with her Netflix movies, so I'm a bit sort of like, ugh, I'm not even sure I watched the last one. So going into it, I was a bit kind of apprehensive, and for me the main issue was there was just no chemistry. There was no chemistry between the siblings. There was no chemistry between like the married couple. There was no chemistry like as a family. And the sort of comedic sort of parts with the neighbor just sort of felt shoehorned in. So yeah, it looked kind of cheap as well. It looked on sort of like a little bit of a micro budget. I was really disappointed because I was sort of excited to watch a Jennifer Garner movie, but yeah, it just didn't work for me.
I hated it so much. I hated this movie so much. In fact, I was actually contemplating doing a full recap if I had liked it. I talked to Marissa Serafina, that I had talked to her because we had done the Freaky Friday ranking. And so we thought, if this is good, that would be like fun to kind of, and maybe even rank it with the rest of the Freaky Friday movies. And then I messaged her. I was like, nope, this thing is terrible. Definitely don't want to do a solo ranking because we usually don't hate watch things on this podcast. And I just thought the writing was so bad, and the premise has so much potential to be funny, and especially when you're swapping the baby and the dog. That was so funny. Like that could have been so funny, but all it was a bunch of flatulence humor and like the really weird incestual kissing scene that you're just like, what? Why did that need to be there? That was strange, and not funny. And yeah, I was like, oh, they went there. Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the biggest thing, it just wasn't funny.
It just
Like
wasn't funny.
yeah, I didn't laugh the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just it's such a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a disappointment.
Yeah, the best they could come up with is the fact that Jennifer Garner's character has this big important meeting and she is lactose intolerant, and I guess the daughter that's inside her doesn't know that her mom is lactose intolerant. And
Yeah.
and so, which I feel like if you were, I don't know, if this had happened, I feel like you'd go over at least those basics and you'd make sure that, especially if this big meeting was happening, and so it didn't feel like, it wasn't like, obviously nothing like this is going to feel realistic. This is a ridiculous situation, but like, I don't know, I just feel like this teen girl would be smarter than that. She's
Mm-hmm.
not an idiot.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the other stuff was just kind of boring, and not that like all the time spent at the soccer match,
Yeah.
that wasn't like funny or that interesting. It didn't have that much to say, because like Freaky Friday movies, those are very strange. And like I enjoy them, but especially watching them back to back, I was just kind of like, these movies are so weird. But they try to at least kind of comment on mothers and daughters, and it is interesting to see like how the each era when they're made, because there's one in the 90s, that's a decom one that people don't know about, which is actually pretty good. And then of course there's the Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan one, and then there's the one from the 70s, and so there's more than people think. And then there's the musical one. And so there's a lot of Freaky Fridays out there, and most of them have something to say about mothers and daughters and different, generations and how they see things, and being in somebody else's body and walking in their shoes and stuff like that. And you didn't get any of the sense of that here. You didn't get the sense of, okay, I'm seeing what it's like to be my daughter, to be my son,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a thing. And I mean, everything with the son, with Ed Helms being in the son's body, and like the son wanting to go to, what was it, Harvard or wherever, and like all of that was just not funny or interesting.
Yeah. It's whatever sort of drama aspect they were trying to achieve and whatever comedy
No.
aspect they were trying to achieve. It's like they sort of missed on both and they also didn't balance it very well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just yeah. It's just so sad because, you know, we're like the target audience.
Yeah, this could
You
have been
know, we're
so
going,
funny.
yeah, yeah, it could have been so good.
It might be the worst movie I've seen in this whole year. I mean, it was terrible. Yeah, I mean, Strays was terrible. I hated that so much, but this was painful. And it's hard to think of like a comedy from
Hmm.
Netflix. Like there's been some rom-coms that have been okay, but like a true comedy that has been good from Netflix. I mean, ooh, they've been really bad. I mean, all the Adam Sandler ones are terrible.
I haven't even watched any. I think I watched the one with Jennifer Garner, not Jennifer Aniston. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah, the
first
murder
one, but
mystery ones. Those ones are okay. Those
I
ones
think I
are
watched the first
okay.
one. But yeah.
Um, yeah. Uh, just trying to I mean, even some of the rom-coms are absolutely terrible on Netflix, like The Kissing Booth. I can't believe there's 3 of them. Whew, that one was bad. It
Oh,
was
yeah,
really
it was
bad.
3.5 hours long.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
unbelievable. Yeah, I was like, I'm not watching that. No
Yeah.
way.
We're watching it.
Uh,
This must end soon. Why is it still going?
yeah, I mean, gosh, I'm trying to think if there's been any good ones. I mean, like Always Be My Maybe, that one's really good,
Mhm.
but it's like mostly rom-com. It's not really like a comedy. But that's the best I can come up with. So yeah, it's bad. Very, very bad. And don't watch it. Don't support it. Don't give it views, please. Don't want a family switch too, please. If you want to see practically this whole same, if you want to see Jennifer Garner in a movie extremely similar that I think is much better, the Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day
Mhm.
is very, very similar. And but to me at least it's actually funny and has something to say. And if you should watch it, if only for the scene where Jennifer Coolidge plays the DMV person for the one son is trying to get his driver's license, and that scene is hilarious.
Mhm.
So that scene alone puts it far above this horrible film. So then that's on Disney Plus. So
Mhm.
uh, I would say watch that over this any day. Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. All right, moving on. And the next one is one that I have seen. You haven't seen. I got the early screener, but it's going to air, I think, on the day that this airs. I think it is posts on the 8th. It's Merry Little Batman, and this is directed by Mike Roth and writers Jace Ricci and Morgan Evans. And it has Luke Wilson, Jonas Kilbrebe, James Cromwell, David Hornsby in the voice acting. And it's when a 6-year-old Damian Wayne finds himself alone in Wayne Manor, he must transform into Little Batman in order to defend his home and Gotham City from the crooks and supervillains intent on destroying Christmas. And we kind of laughed in the preview about this, because it just sounded so bonkers. But you know what? It actually turned out really cute. It was very fun, very funny, well written. The Damian Wayne is quite endearing. The Joker's very funny in it. He's like lonely, and the very end, they end up going to dinner. And he's like, I think you and the Joker are just lonely, and it's a funny little gag that they have. And I do think that it's too long. I think that this would probably be better as a bunch of shorts.
Hmm.
But I still definitely enjoyed it. I really loved the animation style. It feels kind of like a comic book in the animation style. And it was was funny. It made me laugh throughout, and it just kind of makes me wonder, why is it that animation seems to be nailing superheroes lately?
Yeah. I mean, I think like beginning of sort of 2 years ago, sort of over in the majority of last year, I started going through all of the DC animation.
Mm-hmm.
And they sort of set the timeline as well.
Mm-hmm.
So after sort of probably the best one was the Flashpoint. It's one of the best Batman
Yeah.
performances I've ever seen. Definitely the best Flash story. They attempted to do it in the Arrowverse as well, but it's just not as good as the animated movie. And they sort of reset everything and got a whole new voice cast, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so good.
Yeah.
Like the Wonder Woman, there's a Wonder Woman movie that's
Yeah,
really
that one's
good as
good.
well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
there's a bunch of them. There's an
Mm-hmm.
Aquaman movie that's excellent,
Well,
way
and
better
even
than
in the comedies, you had like Lego Batman movie, that was fun. And then Across the Spider-Verse was great. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, that was great. So it's just been crushing it
yeah.
on
Hmm.
whether DC or Marvel or anybody else. I'm really excited to see the new X-Men reboot because I loved that series.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it was excellent. And so that's going to be great. And this, I mean, this is very silly. It's not meant to be, taken seriously. So like maybe some of the Snyder people won't like that. But I thought that the jokes landed and it had a cool visual style and the vocal performances were all really good. So I think that most everybody will like it. Kids will like it. Adults will like it. It's got something to entertain pretty much everybody. So yeah, I would recommend it. I do think that it probably could have just been like I wish that we could still have just the old animated specials that were like 45 minutes. Like we used to get with, Charlie Brown or the Rankin Bass or, all that kind of stuff. This would probably have been better as one of those specials. It's an hour and 32, but nevertheless, I still think it's worth a watch and people will enjoy it. So there we go. I'd give it, I mean, we forgot to say our rating for Family Switch. I would give it literally 0 credits. I hated it.
Yeah, I'll give it one.
Merry Little Batman, I would give like 4 crowns too. All right, let's talk Lifetime. So the big release of the weekend for Lifetime was the ladies of the 80s, Divas Christmas. And this was directed by Chrissy Wolf and writers James Berg and Stan Zimmerman. And of course, we have Lonnie Anderson, Morgan Fairchild, Linda Gray, Donna Mills, Nicolette Sheridan. And it's Let the Good Old Times Roll, 5 soap opera divas as they reunite to shoot the final Christmas episode of their long-running Sudster. The producer, Alex, and director, Nell, who happen to be old college friends, do their best to keep things on the rails. But as the ladies come together, old rivalries resurface that threaten to tear the production apart. So what did you think about this?
I was nervous about this because it was so overhyped, but I obviously haven't seen a lot of these people's work because a majority of it is soap operas.
Right.
I mean, like Morgan Fairchild for me, it's like Friends. She was Chandler's mum in Friends. That's sort of the main sort of like place that I would know her from. Dallas was on when I was growing up, but I never really watched it. Also, I know Nicolette Sheridan, and I'm familiar with Travis because Travis was, who plays Alex, was in Neighbours. It's an Australian soap. He was in that for a few years, so I do like the fact that they got like a younger, cast member from a soap as well. But yeah, I wasn't like super familiar with the majority of them, but I think just knowing about American soap operas just throughout, pop culture, that was enough of an understanding to sort of get all of the jokes and all of the sort of, in jokes with the audience.
Yeah.
So I think overall it really worked for me. I think if you go into this, it's exactly what you expect. It's sort of, they know what the audience want with a project like this, and they sort of deliver that. And there's like a really emotional scene towards the end that I thought was one of the best performances that we ever actually seen in one of these movies, because these actresses are just really good at their jobs. But yeah, I had fun with. I thought it was really fun and predictable and all of that. But I think if you're got a sort of passing interest in this, then I think you will enjoy it, because it delivers exactly what you expect.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to make something with all 5 of these ladies that are such big personalities and make it all balance and work. And some of it, when they're sort of the drama side of it, was less compelling to me. I think if I were them, I would have leaned completely in to them playing Matchmaker. That's what I think worked the best.
I was
the director producer of the special. That was, I thought, really fun. I would totally watch a reality show of these 5 women playing Matchmaker.
Yeah, that's sort of the confusing part for me. Like, I had no idea what they were making, like what the show that they were making was. I was like, is it a reality show? I mean,
yeah, I was
obviously,
a little confused too.
And then he's like writing a script, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know that reality shows are scripted, but it seems like he was writing a drama and not
like that
very
scripted though. Yeah,
not that scripted to the point where it was line by line.
Right.
But yeah, I was really confused as to what exactly they were making. I was like,
yeah, but
it sort of seemed like a holiday special by the end, and I was like, yeah, if they just sort of explained that at the beginning, I think it would have been a bit more easy to follow.
Yeah, but when they get in full Matchmaker mode, that was really cute and funny, and to see them like working, whether it was with him or with her, and giving her a makeover and giving him like the pointers and advice, and I think that there was enough of that I left feeling like that was fun. I had an enjoyable time with the movie. I think you don't really need to have seen these women's soap operas to know basically like who they are and kind of what everybody knows what a soap opera is. So, you understand kind of what their history is, and how much they have to film in one day. And there were kind of some dialogue about that. I mean, compared to the soap opera movie that Hallmark did, is like, this is a million times better. This was way more entertaining than that, which took itself totally seriously, was so boring. Like, the most interesting thing about that movie was watching Ryan Pavey garden. Like, there was no camp. There was no, at least this, you had like a food fight, and you had some campier moments. Like, it wasn't taking itself too seriously. And I'd watch this any day over that Boar Fest that they had on Hallmark.
I don't even remember that movie.
It was so bad. I think it was called Daytime Drama. It had Jen Lilly and Ryan Pavey, and it was just not good. Very disappointing for me. And I almost had it on my worst of ever. But I already had like 2-3 Jen Lillys, and I was like, okay, I got it. Sorry, Jen. But yeah, to me, it was really them playing Matchmaker. That was the cream. That was what was very fun. And I would honestly, I would watch if they made a show of them, these 5 ladies. Obviously they were playing fictional characters, but I would still watch with their real personalities. I would watch them matchmaking people. It was cute. It's fun. It's like a straight white women's version of Queer Eye, It would be fun.
Yeah, it was really cute.
Yeah. So I would give this one like, I'd give this one 3.25, maybe 3.5, something like that. Crowns.
Yeah, I'll give it 3.
Yeah, 3.25. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's The Trouble with Mistletoe by Jennifer Snow. It is the first of the Brook Hollow series. In best-selling author Jennifer Snow's sweet, wholesome Christmas romance, The Trouble with Mistletoe, our heroine learns that you can't say no to a mistletoe kiss, no matter who's under it. Since leaving Brook Hollow and her fiance Luke Dawson 12 years earlier, Victoria Mason hasn't looked back. She's traded the small-town dream of marriage, kids, and family Christmas dinners for late nights working at a high-powered acquisitions firm, lunches at trendy New York restaurants, and jet-setting vacations on the slopes. So her latest work assignment to acquire Brook Hollow's sporting goods store poses a challenge for Victoria in more ways than one, because it's almost Christmas and she's got other holiday plans, and the owner is reluctant to sell, and the owner is Luke. She needs to wrap up the deal before she gets caught up in her old life and her old love, or becomes trapped under the mistletoe again. You can find The Trouble with the Mistletoe by Jennifer Snow wherever you purchase your holiday reads, or use the affiliate link in the description below. All right. Then we had Mistletoe Match. And this is directed by Graham Campbell, writers Jessica L. Randall, and it stars Elena Jotko and Ryan Bruce. And it's this Christmas, Olivia Hayes goes undercover to provide her readers with an in-depth and cynical look at the hugely successful Secret Santa for Singles event. There she meets single dad and handsome widower Thomas, who is just as skeptical about the program as she is. Sparks soon fly, but with a once-in-a-lifetime promotion on the line, will she risk losing it all for the romance she never saw coming? So what did you think of this one?
So I saw this last year. It was on Paramount Plus. So yeah, I think this is just a very, boring acquisition. It's very cut and paste. Like, I feel like I've seen this movie a million times. Like, say I saw it last year, I put it on again just to kind of familiarize myself with it. And I think I got about halfway through and I was like, I already know the ending, even though I'm not like fully remembering it. But yeah, it's very like, it's just there's a million of these. And it's a shame because I think the casting is pretty good, but again, I just felt like, it sort of felt like parody when you see so many of the same thing. So yeah, I was a little frustrated with this one, just kind of bored.
And that her promotion would rely on this, and that there would be no expectation that she's participating in this single thing, and that what would happen if she were to actually meet somebody, and that would be a complete impossibility, is ridiculous. Nobody would care, and it just was it was boring. It was boring, and so it's not much here. I would give it 2 crowns.
I'll give it 1.5.
Okay, so then we have, what's next? Okay, then on Amazon we have Candy Cane Lane, and it was kind of fun. Our girls over at Mahogany Cast, so it's kind of fun. Our friends Anne and Dory and Colleen, they went to the premiere of this to see it in Los Angeles. So they're going to talk a little bit about it on the Mahogany Cast, just a little bit on that, but we'll talk about it too. And this is directed by Reginald Hudlin, and it is written by Kelly Younger, and it stars Eddie Murphy, Tracy Ellis Ross, Jillian Bell. And it's a man determined to win the neighborhood's annual Christmas decorating contest makes a pact with an elf to help him win. However, the elf casts a spell bringing the 12 days of Christmas to life, bringing chaos to the small, unsuspecting town. So overall, what do you think of this one?
I was pretty high on this one. I think it's because I had watched it pretty much immediately after the family switch, and I was like, like this family felt like a family. Like money on the screen, it was pretty inventive and original. It pretty much, I laughed multiple times throughout. Eddie Murphy is such a fantastic comedian. I thought him and Tracy had great chemistry. Thought the kids were really great as well. Just across the board, I had a lot of fun with this. again, I don't know if it's just because it's kind of watched sort of something that was sort of trying to be this
Yes.
immediately before. But yeah, overall it really worked for me. I had a great time with it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. The laughs for the most part worked. The family dynamic worked. I loved the animated elements. I thought, look, the lore, the world building kind of involved was very creative. I really liked every time that they solved part of the mystery of the 12 days of Christmas, how the characters turned into wooden blocks. The way that was done was, I thought, really cool, and just the visual effects are obviously at a different level than you'd get in like Hallmark or one of these other companies. You could see the budget involved, and so yeah, overall I think it worked. The parts of it that didn't work, I do think this movie's way too long. It should be like 80 minutes, I think, would be the sweet spot. A typical TV movie length. To be 2 hours there was so much that needed to get cut, I think, from this movie. It just felt way too long. I think you could easily cut 30 minutes, no problem. I think from it.
I think the issue was giving everyone sort of their individual thing. So in a way, I can see your point, but and also I do like the fact that everybody had their own thing and their own thing sort of wrapped up in the end as well.
Yeah. And then the other problem, and this may be just a me problem, is that I just am not a fan of Jillian Bell. I've now seen her in a bunch of stuff, and I've disliked her in everything I've seen her. I know she's supposed to be cynical and the cynical elf and everything, but I just found her grating and annoying, and I'm not good as a villain. I have not enjoyed her in, like I said, in anything. I really didn't like Brittany Runs a Marathon. It was like the huge hit that year at Sundance. Everyone loved it. And I just thought she was miserable. Just because she's losing weight does not give her an excuse to be a horrible person. And she is horrible to everyone around her. And so I guess I have an unpopular opinion when it comes to her. So far, she's not won me over as an actress. And she didn't win me over in this. At least she's supposed to be a villain in this, unlike Brittany Runs a Marathon, where she was supposed to be the hero. So she was annoying to me, but everything with the family worked really well. The jokes, for the most part, worked. The lore, I really liked the visual effects, the aesthetic of it all. So enough of it that I would recommend it for sure. But those were the only things I didn't like.
Yeah.
What did you think of Jillian? Did you like her?
I did like her in things like Godmothered and Bill and Ted, and I do think she is at her best when she's used in small doses, because I do think whatever sort of shtick that she is doing, it can get grating depending on what it is that she's doing. But yeah, it didn't really bother me. I was surprised that they kept
Godmothered was one I did not like that at all. I that was not for me. So yeah. But you didn't.
To win you over then?
What's that?
You still to win you over then?
No. So, but that's good that she didn't annoy you as much as she annoyed me. That's good. But it wasn't a deal breaker for me, and I think most people will be fine with it, and probably also fine with the length. It just would have been. It was so many movies these days. I just feel like if they just had like a little bit of a tighter edit, would be so much better.
Yeah, it's funny. Like the movie section on my TV, like one of the sections is movies under an hour and a half. Because I do think that does put people off. You come in from work, you want to watch a movie, and it's like 2.5 hours long. Like you want to be going to bed in a couple of hours.
Yeah. Well, that's what's nice about these TV movies, is they're just like a little package of fun.
Like an episode of TV.
Yeah. So I would give this one 3.5 crowns. What would you give it?
I give it 4.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hearty, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Last three were movies on Zumo, the Zumo app. And two of them were written by Shannon Latimer, who did Ghost of Christmas Past, which is a favorite of mine. So I'm always invested in kind of seeing what she's doing and what she's up to. And the first one is called Christmas Casanova. And this was directed by Will Bouse and again written by Shannon Latimer. And the cast is Kalinka Pietre and Fayed Ahmed. And Elise is a podcaster in need of catchy Christmas content, as she agrees to be Jake's wing woman and guide. As the two scramble to build the best Christmas ever, it becomes clear that Jake might be trying to win over the wrong woman. So you could get pretty sloshed if you took a shot every time this movie says podcast. And I don't think that this is an accurate depiction of the exciting life of podcasters.
Yeah, they've yet to capture it on film.
No, you don't. It's not nearly so exciting. It's a lot of time spent like researching and editing and stuff that's not cinematic. So I understand.
I think the only successful one is Only Murders in the Building. I think the only one to capture podcasting.
It's true. But I really thought that he was charming. He was Christmas Casanova. He was a Casanova. I would see him in more. I thought I'd never seen him before, and I really liked him a lot. And so it was enough to mildly enjoy this one for me. What do you think?
I didn't see this one.
Oh, you didn't see this one?
Yeah.
It's not like great, but I really liked him. He was very charismatic, and so I would recommend it just for him to see it. So I would give this one three crowns. And then we had Unforgettable Christmas, and this is directed by John Bradshaw, writers Jennifer Edwards and Shannon Latimer, and it stars Celeste Desjardins and Brett Donahue. If Princess Colette were to get a Christmas wish, she would rather be a fashion designer than heir to her country's throne. But when she works for designer Wilson James on a collection, she finds both her true calling and her true love. That's not a very good description. This movie is about it's about a woman who is a princess who wants to be a designer, and she gets knocked out one day she's like investigating this fashion shoot or whatever. She gets knocked out and she forgets everything, who she is, everything, and she gets found by the Brett Donahue character, and he helps her, and he has a daughter, and she starts to remember a little bit by little bit, but of course they start to fall for each other, but she and then it's not until the very, very end, the big fashion show, of course. So it's kind of a combination of, your sort of fashion princess movie and your amnesia story. But did you get to see this one?
I didn't know.
Okay. This one was fine. I liked both the leads. It was cute. It was a good, it was a decent story. They had decent chemistry. It's completely absurd and ridiculous, and like why nobody would recognize that she's a princess, and why she wouldn't be able to be a designer as a princess. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous, but I liked him. I thought that he did a good job with kind of the Cameron Matheson role of like, finding this woman with amnesia and whatever. So it was fun enough. I'd give it three crowns for this one as well. So then the last one is Christmas in Scotland, and this directed by David Lumsden, writer Steve Turner, and it stars Jill Winterence and Dominic Waters. On a trip to Scotland, an installation designer finds herself helping a small community create a festive light display, despite the interventions of a wealthy heir. Forced to work together, they unite to bring seasonal magic to light. So I didn't get to see this one. You did, and you're from Scotland. What did you think?
Yeah, this was not good.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that this sort of initial thing that I did get me a little bit excited is that it's filmed in Curus. I grew up calling it Culross because that's just visually what that word looks like, but it's pronounced Curus, and it's one of these towns that it just looks like time has not passed. Outlander has filmed there a bunch. And on the way back from a little trip that I did a couple of years ago, we actually stopped in it, and they have a little Outlander sort of merch shop set up, and a lot of tourists will go there just based on Outlander and other movies being filmed there. They have like a really beautiful house there called the Royal Borough of Curus, which is like this like it's the town just sort of, like I say, is very much the town that the time hasn't passed, and it's very like old houses and cobblestones, and then there's the Royal Borough of Curus, which is this big yellow house, and it's very sort of striking, and that's in the background of this movie a lot, but for some reason I don't think they had access to it. It is a protected historic I think it's under the Historic Scotland, so they probably didn't get access to it, so it is in the background a lot. So they did have another house that's very sort of Downton Abbey-esque to go to. But yeah, this is just very much cut and paste, very low budget. The acting wasn't the best. I feel awful saying that. But yeah, it just felt like, again, very cut and paste. Like we've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen any of the actors in anything before, so I wasn't familiar with anybody. Writer, director, I wasn't familiar with.
Right.
They did do all of the standard things of like, the reason that the town doesn't have lights is just because a laird of previous years had banned it, so that the lairds that would come next just continued that tradition. Like there was no actual reason for banning the lights. It was just like upholding a tradition, a strange tradition.
Right.
And our main character, one of our main characters, Alex, is the grandson or son of that laird. And yeah, it was just pretty boring. They had all of they had a ceilidh, they had like all of the sort of normal sort of Scottish things that they sort of force into these movies. But yeah, it was just kind of boring for me. I just wish it was a little bit more money spent on it, and the script being a little bit better.
Yeah. How many crowns did you give it?
1.5, and that's been very generous. Okay. I feel awful. Like, see, when you watch something, it's like you don't want to be mean, but it's
everything can't be a winner. And hey, we always say, you know what, they made something, we haven't made anything, so they're one up on us. But it's just two people's opinions, and they
got a trip to Scotland out of it.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. So let us know what you think of all these different movies that we're talking about. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And and if we missed any that we haven't covered on like other episodes of the pod, like Up TV or whatever, if we missed any non-Hallmark that you liked that you think we should check out, put in the comments. We'd love to hear. And Michelle, where can people follow you?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews, 5 stars. That helps so much. And also, if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is so much fun. And you get to be part of watch-alongs and you get to be part of exclusive reviews. So please check out the Patreon. And then we also have the merch store. We have tons of fun holiday designs and it's a great way to support the podcast. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Merry Christmas. Bye.
Merry Christmas. Bye.